and water's coming back up from the river up Norman Creek, and would council consider floodgates? And that question is something that I'm sure quite a few people will be asking over the next few months. There are two things that are going on. There's the Royal Commission, which the state government set up. There's also a review which is being headed up by former Governor Peter Arneson, which I've commissioned. There's also a QC, Bob Goddison, and Professor Colin Appelt, who's an authority in flooding in Brisbane. We will look at that, and indeed there are locations in Brisbane where you can, you know, from an engineering and technical point of view, I don't know how many people know, but I originally was a civil engineer before I fell from grace. It is technically possible, but there are some real issues on the other side of the ledger. Floodgates are not particularly good for the environment. Many people say, well, bugger the environment, we got flooded. You know, I understand that as well. There's also the issue of them being jammed with flood debris. There are various types you can use, but they can cause huge problems as well. The other thing was that we didn't have the suburban rain event that we had in '74. Remember, water doesn't just come up from the river, so that it can also come from the catchment down. So essentially what you're doing with a floodgate is you're completing the barrier across the river and saying it's a one-way flow out we're trying to use. If the valve fails, if it's jammed by debris, then you can have a lake, and so you can have flooding on this side of it due to creek flooding. The more common thing that will cause flooding in this local area or across it to Stones Corner is actually suburban rainfall, intense rain in the catchment, 2 or 3 hour period. That's happened on many occasions since 1974 and caused flooding. So it's a real dilemma. I think, frankly, there are very few candidates in Brisbane. I'm pledging to going to look at this, but the candidates are places like up through Rosalie, maybe New Farm, Norman Creek. I'm starting to think no. One of the big things, well, there are two big things we're doing to deal with flooding. One of them I alluded to is the issue of the new park down here. The other one, I don't know if people have caught it, is we are starting work this financial year. We're in this financial year. We have started work on a whole lot of flood mitigation and sort of environmental work down adjacent to Stones Corner. So you know where the creek goes up through the park and you've got a concrete channel. Just cutting to the chase there, the vision is to work with the community, the local Norman Creek catchment group, with an engineering sort of view in mind, local sporting groups, go in there, excavate the entire area, drop the current sporting field level by 1 metre, 2 metres, create a whole lot more flood storage, re-engineer the creek as a natural channel, put it to one side or the other, the east or the west side, and then actually build new ovals there that have far more utility, far greater use, and a new bikeway through there as well. So it's a very big piece of work. The idea is to actually improve flooding around Stones Corner down into East Brisbane and give better flood immunity to people, like dropping the flood level, you know, I don't know how much, it could be 300 millimetres, 600 millimetres in that range against suburban events. So again, long answer to a question, but you know, as a professional engineer, but also someone who's really keen on protecting our environment and someone who's done a lot of work in flooding over the last 5 years, it ain't a simple answer. It really isn't. It comes with a whole host of issues that are quite significant.